Welcome to Colorado Inside Out Post Game, a special web exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on the Denver Post reporting this week that it took 15 months to suspend a Denver sheriff's deputy who used Taekwondo moves against an inmate back in April of 2013. In a recent analysis of the department, the Post found that it takes close to a year for disciplinary cases to be decided. Patty Calhoun from Westward, we've been talking about the Denver Sheriff's Department for I think a few months now. This was pretty shocking. Do you think this will inspire change when you see someone who did something clearly wrong in April 2013 and not suspended until this summer?
Oh, I think we've seen many things that will inspire change coming out about the Denver Sheriff's Department. And right now we're looking at that there's an RFP out for other people to do studies for the city. We've got the task forces meeting. We've got the independent person, Jim Davis, doing his report. So we're going to have plenty of other pieces of information. What's surprising is when we had Chief Justice Martinez, who had become the manager of safety and worked on that whole, following up what the previous manager of safety had done to come up with a whole new template for discipline, but it focused on the police department. Why they didn't think about the sheriff's department at the same time? Because as we see in the ongoing stories about police, it takes forever to do a lot of discipline there, but they at least cut out some steps. Clearly that matrix already exists and they can cut it back a little bit for sheriffs. Since David's not here, we can say, I'm not sure electing a sheriff in Denver would solve the problem because obviously it is not helping in El Paso County, where now the FBI is in charge of the Terry McKee investigation.
Speaking of David being out, Amy Oliver Cook joins us, Executive Vice President at the Independence Institute, also with some pretty decent knowledge of how the sheriffs work here in Colorado, with your husband being the sheriff of Weld County. Your thoughts on all sheriff matters here that we're talking about?
Well, first of all, thank you for including sheriffs again on the topic when I'm on. So I greatly appreciate that because apparently I am the resident expert. But in all seriousness, there's a lot to be said for an elected sheriff, and for instance, in Weld County, because that's what I know, deputies serve at the will of the sheriff, and this kind of discipline doesn't take that long. I mean, there's certainly due process and all of that. It's all there, but it's a little bit more expedited. You're not dragging things out for 15 months because the sheriff has the ultimate authority to hire and fire. And there are certainly appeals processes and everything, but you have a Denver Sheriff's Department as opposed to an office. You have a department, and you've got them represented by the Fraternal Order of Police, and you have a bureaucracy in place that doesn't allow for swift discipline. Now, sometimes, I mean, you need that due process. It needs to be there because you don't want people arbitrarily fired. But it does take too long, and I think, I mean, hopefully this will get solved. It is certainly not the issue that we have in Weld County or Larimer County or other places like that. As far as El Paso County, the FBI is involved. There's an investigation, and once the investigation plays out, we'll find out if the accusations are true.
Eric Sonneman, political analyst. As Amy and Patty alluded to, there's things going on in El Paso County. The story continues in Denver County. Take your pick.
Well, in El Paso County, finding out that the FBI is involved, I mean, that's about as good news for Terry McKee as, you know, if his receptionist called up to him and said 60 Minutes is in the lobby and would like to talk to you. I mean, when the FBI gets involved, it conveys a level of seriousness. I would also suggest that I think Terry McKee, whatever leverage he may have had, as his days in office wane, his resignation becomes less and less valuable all the time. So if there was any leverage to try to make this thing go away with some kind of a deal or an arrangement, that leverage is waning. Here, I mean, Amy's right about due process, but we as a society have to figure out how to give people due process rights, and not just in word, but in deed as well, without having all these processes, whether it's the disciplining a sheriff's deputy or the criminal justice system or whatever, without having it drag out like it so often drags out. If you're going to engineer a culture shift in the Denver Denver Sheriff's Department, as all of us around this table and others have been talking about now for weeks on end, you need to have a couple things. You need swift discipline and sure discipline. And this one was not swift at all. I don't think there can be any argument based on the facts that have come out that this deputy was way, way, way out of line. I'm surprised he's held on to his job at all. There needs to be, if you're going to engineer this culture shift, there needs to be something closer to a zero tolerance policy for this kind of behavior, and the fact that it took 15 months is reprehensible.
Penfield State Attorney at Greenbridge Trowbridge, also former state lawmaker. Something like changing the whole culture in the Denver Sheriff's Department is not an overnight process, but it's been building and you're seeing these stories come out. Does something need to happen at least to address these kinds of stories before the major reform can take place?
We are living the adage that truth is often stranger than fiction. Whether it's Denver, Mesa County, or El Paso County, you can't make this stuff up. You just can't. And you really got to look at some of these videos. 15 months is too long. Peace officers deserve due process, but due process doesn't mean do and do and do and do forever. If you look at the video with this most recent Taekwondo incident, you've got to be asking yourself, seriously? You wouldn't even let your kids behave like this at home. This guy goes after the inmate who's in a separate room to show him his Taekwondo kicks. If I'm an inmate, I might pop him also. What are you doing coming after me and you're the one with the gun? So it's a complete do-over. I don't know if you have to change the personnel systems or what, but it is clear that, and the fact that it takes so long and that we're seeing so many instances tells you this is not just isolated instances. This is a pattern. This is a do-over. You've got to change the culture, and the mayor has got to propose something radical and blow this baby up and start over again because it's way out of control.
That's all the time we have for Colorado Inside Out postgame this week. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.